Hello, it's Shari Moss, and today I'm going to be showing you how I made these elegant holiday cards using die cuts and Lawn Fawn products. So I'm starting off with the new Vanilla Malt cardstock, which is a nice, beautiful cream cardstock, and I'm cutting a whole sheet in half long ways, so it's 4 1/4 wide. Now I'm going to use one of these halves as my card base. So I'm just going to score it at 5 1/2 and create a tall top folding card. And then the other piece I'm actually going to cut in half at 5 1/2 inches, and I'm going to use one side of it as a panel for the front of my card. So you can see that fits perfectly right on the front. We are going to be doing some die cutting to this, however, so it will be cut down so that there's a little border around our panel. So I have some adhesive sheets from Scrapbook Adhesives. These are full sheets of adhesive paper. They're 4 by 6, so they're not quite the right size. They're a little larger on the top and bottom, and they're a little shorter on the sides. But I'm going to be using a die to cut this out, and so it will end up being pretty much to the edge. So I'm going to lay it on my grid mat here. Just line it up. This will help me get it sort of straight. And I'm trying to not quite put it on the edge so that when my die cut cuts this, when the rectangle, I'll cut off that piece that doesn't have the adhesive. So I'm going to be using the largest of the outside in stitch rectangles, and the size of that is actually 4 inches wide, so it should be pretty close. I'm just going to make sure that's nice and burnished down by using my bone folder. And then I can just cut off the excess pieces with my scissors. This will have sticky on the back, so you do want to cut this off before you do the die cutting. So I've lined it up and I've cut it off here. And I pretty much got it right on the edge. There's a little bit of a gap on one edge, but I'll show you how to fix that here in a little bit. The reason I put adhesive over this whole thing is because I'm going to basically make my own glitter paper, which you can buy glitter cardstock, but the glitter cardstock I had was not the right creamy tone that I wanted. So I'm just using the same Vanilla Malt cardstock and using the Prisma glitter from Lawn Fawn. So I'm just going to cover this whole thing in glitter, and I'm using a coffee filter here to catch all my extra glitter. And the goal from this is to make 2 cards out of 1 panel. Now I will tell you that my first attempt, I was going to die cut my pieces and then do the glitter, but it actually started pulling off the adhesive, the paper backer. So I abandoned that idea and I decided I was going to glitter the whole sheet first and then do my die cutting. So that very, very edge, there was like a tiny little sliver. It's probably hard to see on camera that didn't get any glitter. So I just took my quickie glue pen and drew a line of glue right down that edge. And then I can add glitter to that and the whole thing will be covered. Now to do my die cutting, I've got my Cuttlebug magnetic plate in here. So it's the A, the magnetic plate, and then the B. And it's going to help me hold these snowflakes in place without putting tape. Now, the key to this is I want it to kind of go off the side so it looks like it was a whole big panel that I cut down, but I want to carefully place where I put those going off the side, because if you put it off too much, you're going to end up with all these little pieces that you have to add back in when you try to make the card with the full panel. And you'll see what I mean by that as we get into assembling the cards after I've die cut these pieces. So I'm kind of hanging the edge off, but very, very minimal there. And then I've just got a piece of typing paper I've folded into quarters, and that's just going to keep all that glitter from sticking to my cutting plates. So I've cut the first round of those 5 snowflakes. You can see them over there on the side. I popped them out, and then I'm just placing them on there again so I can cut out and fill up the panel. So you see, I'm going to keep that in the die there. You see that's going to have a corner piece that I'm going to have to add back in. Now, to do the first card that has the actual snowflakes, I put some removable adhesive onto the back of the panel just to kind of hold it in place. This is not permanent. And then I can just lay my snowflakes down into those voids from that panel. I'm using a precision tip bottle that is actually filled with the Distress Collage Medium. I've been using this glue a lot lately after it being suggested to me at a retreat by my friend Jen, and I'm actually really liking it. It seems to hold a little better than the Ranger Multi-Medium and Matte. So I'm just going through here and placing these snowflakes into those places where they were. You actually would not have to do this, but those partial snowflakes, like the one I'm doing here on the bottom, you wouldn't know exactly where the spacing would be if you didn't do it like this. Now that I have them all in here, I'm going to carefully pull up that panel, and I'm using my poking tool here to kind of hold those pieces down so I don't pop up my snowflakes. And now I can use that panel and put that same collage medium all over the back, and I'm really making a point to trace around the snowflake so that part gets good and stuck down. And once I've got that whole thing covered the way I want it, I'm going to put this on another card base cut out of the cream. So I actually cut 2 card bases. I cut another one. And then I'm using a block to help kind of press it down so I don't get glitter all over the place. I've cut 2 of those larger snowflakes just from a piece of scrap paper so that I can take those little bits that you see in the coffee filter there and fill those in so that you get the whole snowflake shape and you don't get just that big void in the middle. The smaller of the 2 actually looks okay without these pieces in it, but I just think it adds some more detail if you put these in. So I put them in by putting the glue in the voids, and then I used a jewel picker to pick them up, which is great for sequins and jewels and very small pieces of paper. So once I've got them all in there, I can just pull out that scrap piece that I used as a template, and then those pieces are in place, and I think it looks really nice. So here's my 2 card bases, the one with just the snowflakes and the one that uses the negative, which actually is my favorite of the 2. I'm going to be using some metallic papers that I just found at my local craft store. I like these because they're not like mirror board. They're kind of satiny. They were a 12 by 12 sheet that I just cut down. And then I'm using the Scripty Mary and the For You to die cut. I also cut out a couple more of the Mary and the For You out of that same cream cardstock. I'm going to stack them on top of each other again using that same glue just to give it a nice, thick, hefty sentiment. That metallic paper is not as thick as the cardstock. It's a little more flimsy, so this kind of gives it some nice sturdiness to it. So once I have those stacked up, I'm just going to stack on top the gold Mary piece that I cut. And I did 3 cream pieces under that. I only did 2 under the For You. So I have this metallic Nina cardstock here, and I'm using the white one, and I've just cut a strip that's 1/2 inch wide. It goes all the way across the card, so it's 1/2 inch by 4 1/4. And I'm just going to heat emboss the Christmas from the Happy 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 add-on set with the rose gold embossing powder. This paper has that metallic finish, so it's kind of hard to just stamp on, so that's why I'm doing the heat embossing. I also like the rose gold color to contrast with the gold of the Mary. So I just hit it with my heat tool there, and then I'm going to add some more of that liquid glue. And I'm using the liquid glue because it's going over glitter and it's not completely flat because I'm going to overlap these snowflakes. So I want that liquid glue to kind of squish into the voids and hold it nice and tight. And I'm using my grid mat, which got a little wonky in the camera, but I'm using that to make it straight. Now I've fixed it. And once I've got that little banner down, I can add my Merry sentiment right above it. And I like having the Y, the lower part of the Y, overlap the banner. I just think it kind of snugs up the sentiment nicely. So I usually put a block on it so it'll dry nice and flat. Now I'm going to add the For You. Again, this one isn't as thick. I only put 2 pieces of cardstock underneath it instead of 3. But it still has some dimension to it and pops off the page. I really love that coppery color. Now I've got some sequins from Neat and Tangled. I think it's Snowfall, I believe. And I like these because they're clear sequins as well as like a frosty white sequin. So they just add some blinginess to it without taking away from the background. On this one that I have so much glitter going on, I actually used some of the little jewels from Little Things from Lucy's Cards. I used some of the clear ones, the ice jewels, and I also used some of the white ones that have an iridescent sheen, the bridal jewels. And I decided on this one I was going to make sure I place these between the snowflakes so they're not overlapping the snowflakes, kind of like if it was a patterned paper and these were the little specks that fill in between the snowflakes. So you can really see it when you kind of pick it up and move it around. I like the ice ones because they're perfectly clear. It's kind of a surprise. And then there's the one with the sequins. And here's a look at both of those cards side by side. And here's a little bit of a closer look. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye.